Many of the Measure 37 claims are in the strip starting right where the development falls off now. So you'd see all of the land between Cornelius Pass Road, North Plains, right on up to where Highway 47 comes in. Those would be packed with these weird checkerboard subdivisions. Because there still was residual zoning, you'll see some protection of the land in Washington County. But in the far-flung reaches, the last land to be zoned in the county, you'll see the worst case of development.
I think with one fell swoop, Measure 37 has opened the opportunity for all of the very prime land of Oregon to be eliminated. Paved over, blown up, malls put on top of, subdivisions that aren't wanted, overcrowding, no infrastructure. Oregon won't be Oregon.
Some of the proposals that I've seen are just outrageous, putting development right in the middle of nowhere. How are you thinking that you would put 75 to 80 houses on a spot that has no kind of access to or from it?
It takes an hour for a sheriff to get out here if something goes wrong. So if they build this huge development, if they can't service us, how are they going to service them?
Currently in Molalla, there's not any infrastructure to support the claims that have been put in place with Measure 37. There's not enough schools, there's not enough septic, there's not enough groundwater.
Sewers, roads, telephone poles, and that is not necessarily going to be paid for by the developers. It's going to be paid for by all of us.
There's a big difference between the individuals that were used to promote Measure 37 who just wanted to build a couple houses on their land and the interest that backed Measure 37 financially. Just 4% of the contributors to the campaign to pass Measure 37 gave over half the money to pass the measure, but in turn filed claims for nearly $700 million.
Timber companies all over the state which bankrolled Measure 37 and are bankrolling the opposition to Measure 49 have put in gigantic claims. Stimson Lumber, which owns a large amount of forest land out in Washington County, has put in a claim that would develop 36,000 acres of forest land in Washington County and turn those into housing developments.
Measure 37 was planned so that an individual could divide the land among family. Stimson is not a family. Stimson is a corporation.
Do we really want to allow corporations to come in and choose to buy an exorbitant amount of private forested land and decide that that is where development's going to happen?
Corporations are the huge benefactors under Measure 37 because guess what? Corporations don't die. They don't sell their property to their kids. Your property is not inherited. Remember, it's not how long it's been in the family, it's how long you've had your property.
Measure 49 does what I think people believed they were voting for when they voted for Measure 37.
Measure 49 delivers on what Measure 37 promised for individual property owners who just want to build a few homes on their land as they could have when they bought their land, but also protects our farmland, our forests, and our water supplies by limiting large developments and prohibiting claims for industrial and commercial projects like strip malls and gravel pits and billboards where they simply don't belong.
It's going to take away the gold rush factor where giant timber companies are trying to convert entire forests to housing developments, where people are trying to develop on steep slopes and in floodplains, where development would destroy the quality of life and lower property values for surrounding neighbors. Those are the kinds of claims that are going to be eliminated.
People won't be able to just choose and just threaten the government with building or putting something up. I mean, because we're not just talking about homes, we're talking about Walmarts, we're talking about signage, we're talking about condominiums down on the coast, we're talking about so many various things that have come under Measure 37 that really need to be examined prior to this development happening.
Measure 49 will provide a fast track for property owners to build up to 3 houses if they could have done so when they acquired their land.
Measure 37 was not responsible and was not well thought out. And I really do think that Measure 49 is well thought out. And I think it is responsible. I think as a state, we want to be able to develop and we want to be able to grow. but we also want to be able to sustain those things that bring us a true Oregon, and that's agriculture.
We need an urban-rural partnership to sustain us culturally, spiritually, and emotionally. Everybody loves the farmers markets and no one wants to see them go. And we are at risk of losing that type of really vibrant agricultural economy.
The farmers market is, I think, a real good new tool for farmers to be able to bring in the produce, sell it directly, and people are getting fresh food and they know where it's coming from. It's so great to be able to gather as a community in the farmers market. The small farmer needs other small farms to exist. You can't just have one small farm and no others. They need each other. And without those farmers markets, without those different products being able to come in, you won't be able to do farmers markets because you won't have enough people to be able to make it work.
We can hope that 49 will turn things around so that the houses are limited, the commercial and industrial are eliminated, and that still people from the city can drive 40 miles out and be in rural countryside, and that there will be pumpkin patches for the kids to pick their pumpkins at. And there's parks and watermelons and roadside fruit stands, but that'll all be gone if it goes under pavement.
It's very hard once you pour the concrete to take it back.
If we take farmland close to the city and we have that disappear, those next generations are going to say, what were you thinking?
We know of over 150 subdivision applications that are pending or being processed based on Measure 37 waivers that have already been granted. And really that's just the tip of the iceberg. If we don't pass Measure 49 this fall, it'll be too late to say that we didn't get it right.
I still fear they may win. I may not be able to fight them beyond a certain point. Measure 37 doesn't give neighbors very many tools to limit the size of developments right next to them. They can be absolutely run over by their neighbor, and there's nothing they can do.
If Measure 49 doesn't pass, there will soon be 40 homes up there on the hilltop because their application is already in front of the county and they are ready to go.
Certainly the best way to fix Measure 37 is to pass Measure 49. In fact, it's probably the only hope to fix Measure 37.
My dearest hope at this point is that Oregonians now, after they've seen the claims and they've seen who's behind the claims, will take the opportunity to vote for Measure 49.
I think now we've seen what happens, and hopefully people will wake up and say, oh, wait a minute, that's not a real great idea, and vote for Measure 49.